we'll get started. I'm sure we'll have a few stragglers coming in as the meeting goes on. So we've done enough of these. I think everybody knows the drills. Just type in questions in the chat, and Whitney will field those as we go along. So I'd like to welcome Whitney back. We're going to talk about what I think is a unique offering here, maybe a little twist on multifamily. But before I butcher it any further, Whitney, I'll turn it over to you. All yours.
Yeah. Hi, guys. Thank you again. My name is Whitney Elkins-Hutten. I'm the Director of Investor Education here at PassiveInvesting.com. Many of you I've either had the opportunity to meet on a webinar just like this, or in person in October, or just on the phone. So thank you so much for joining. Today we're here to discuss the stepping stone at Bridgewater. I'm going to go ahead and drop into the chat box the link to the offering memorandum. That way you guys can kind of cruise along with me and have this as well. If you give me just a second, if at any point in time you are interested in participating in this deal, you can place a soft reserve for that deal and take a look at the PPM and everything. Just make sure when you complete the form as an LFI member, when you complete the form, make sure when it says, how did you hear about the deal? There will be a question that you put in LFI. That way we can honor a 20% back-end bonus for all LFI investors. So if you guys come in at $250,000 combined or more, everybody, regardless of what they invested, $50,000, $7,500, you get a 20% back-end bonus. And I'll point that out to you here as well. But anyways, for many of you, if you've already taken a look at our other deal, the banks at Bridgewater, you'll be like, hey, why are both of these deals named Bridgewater? It's because they're actually sister properties. They're right next door to each other, and we picked them up in a package deal from the same developer. And so both deals, the banks at Bridgewater, which is a 252-unit multifamily building, as well as the stepping stone at Bridgewater, which is a 44-unit build-to-rent community, we're on the same purchase sale agreement from the same developer right next door. We are able to keep a lot of expenses down between both properties because we can utilize the same team to monitor and do the lease up on both properties and handle all maintenance. Anyways, this is a great little find. Just think of it almost like a 44-unit townhome complex right in the middle of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. As you guys flip through here, I'll just point out some highlights in the offering memorandum. We're on this particular property, we did break them up. So it gave investors the opportunity to either go into the banks at Bridgewater, 252 units, or if you wanted to go into the 44-unit build to rent community, you had a choice as an investor. You weren't going to be pigeonholed to invest in both if you didn't want to. So for this particular property, we're actually, the financials break out. It stands alone by itself. We're kind of entering at a 4.8% cap rate. So pretty decent for the area. As you can see, the expense ratios are pretty low at 36%, partly because this is the build to rent community. So several more, for those of you who might have single family building and stuff like that, you can outsource a lot of that maintenance to the tenant, like lawn care, snow removal, pest control, stuff like that. A lot of those things can be outsourced to the tenant, as opposed to at a multifamily building, you want to actually maintain those on your operating statement as an owner. We'll talk about the lending. We are using the exact same lender that we used on the banks at Bridgewater. So it is a fixed rate, interest rate debt, fixed for the term of the hold, pretty generic. No, we have a small lockout period, no prepayment penalty. Actually, sorry, I take that back. I think it's a 2-year prepayment penalty on the property, but very low, and we can refinance in year 3 if we want to, but your refinance is nowhere in the financials at all. So very conservative underwriting. Now a question came in, can you explain what a build to rent community is? This is a community where all 44 units were actually built with the idea that it would be rented, not sold off as individual sale for direct ownership. Pretty simple as that. So partly, what we're starting to see a lot of this crop up in major metropolitan service areas where land can be developed. However, not everybody can actually afford to buy the house, but they can afford to rent it. So it creates a unique opportunity for the tenant to get a new build property as well as without having to buy it. And then it creates a great investment opportunity for you as an investor. So I'll just go over, a lot of you are probably really wanting to take a look at the financials, and then we'll get into, Myrtle Beach and stuff like that. On the left-hand side of the page, that's the capital stack. This is it. On this particular deal, we're offering a 7% preferred return. It is a 70-30 split to 13% IRR and then 50-50 after. Now, as I mentioned before already, for LFI investors, when LFI combined comes in and hits the $250,000 threshold or more, everybody, regardless on their investment amount, would get fall in the 20% bonus tier, meaning you would actually have an 86-14 split to 13% IRR and then 60-40 after that. Okay, so a nice equity bump on the back end. On the right-hand side of the page, this is a financial modeling and sensitivity analysis. If you were to invest $100,000 into the deal, we are looking at year one cash flows at like 5.1% and then scaling it up to closer to 7% by year 5. Now, we do our preferred return, it's cumulative. So any delta between the cash on cash and the preferred return continues to accumulate and must be paid out before the general partnership gets to participate in any additional splits. Below here on the return summary, that is a sensitivity analysis. And if you guys want me to go in deeper on that, I definitely can, but this is just modeling what you as an investor can expect based on the cap rate. So we're anticipating the market to either hold or get worse over the next 5 years. So meaning the cap rate would expand or revert. So we're entering a 4.8% cap rate. And this just models out what you could expect on your return at disposition, IRR, equity multiple, and your average cash on cash. As the cap rate expands, we all still make money in this environment because of the business plan on the asset. And our business plan is very simple. We don't have any CapEx or deferred maintenance on this property. We are continuing the lease up and burning off any concessions on this deal. And that's pretty much what our business plan is. Again, this was a great package opportunity with the banks of Bridgewater. And it's a nice kind of what I call base hit type deal as we move into this kind of choppy water environment. I already think we're here. I don't know what you guys think, but I think, Q1 through Q3 next year, maybe even into Q4, we're going to see even more of an economic slowdown. So this is a great opportunity to, just good, solid, no CapEx, no deferred maintenance, good, solid fixed rate lending on the property. And just really kind of, something that you could invest in, continue to see your dollars grow and not be taking, any outsized risk over the next few months in order to achieve a return. All right, so here's the profile of the property. We got 44 units. We're at 95% occupancy right now, which is great. However, that also tells us that we're a little bit below market rent. So there's two things that we can do here. We're going to burn off the concessions that are, because developers just aren't good at leasing up properties to their full potential. What they want to do is get butts in the seats, essentially. That way, somebody who's going to buy the property can go to a lender and show stabilized financials in order to secure a loan. So, rents typically are, somewhere anywhere between 10 to 20% below market rents. So we are going to continue to burn off those concessions. That's one thing, but also continue to raise the rents. There's ample opportunity here in the Myrtle Beach, North Carolina area to do that. And it's because of this, the supply and demand metrics in the area. And I'll show you that in just a minute. So for those of you who don't know where Myrtle Beach is, over here on the left, it's in South Carolina. in between Wilmington and Charleston. So right there on the coast. Now, I think a lot of people's first question is, okay, like what about how are you mitigating risk with hurricanes and stuff like that? With this particular Myrtle Beach in the last hurricane in Ian that hit end of September, early October, we saw zero damage on this property, no flooding, nothing. Maybe a little bit of a couple of downed palms from wind, and that was about it. So zero issue. It actually sits inland a little bit on a canal system, and so it's very heavily mitigated as far as like water. It doesn't have the tidal risk or anything like that. So it's off the coast. So it's not like the devastation that you saw in Fort Myers. Additionally, we always buy a very good insurance policy on these properties. And should we ever have an issue where a property is damaged by something like a hurricane, not only are we going to get, past our deductible, and get all the repairs made, we will also get the loss of income. So we also insure against loss of income on our properties as well. All right, so as far as metrics for the Myrtle Beach area, I'm super excited about this because, if you look here over on the graph, we've got this nice hockey stick curve with an infill of people. This is the area home values. They're starting to take off. But one of the reasons why those home values are starting to take off is because the supply and demand metrics are just completely out of whack for this area. Myrtle Beach is in the top 10 fastest growing cities in the United States. In a 2021-2022 report. And if you look here, the other 9 are in Florida. Okay. And then Myrtle Beach is down here, and we're expecting a 40% influx of population growth for the area by 2027. And so we already have that out of whack supply demand metrics right now, and then we're going to have more people migrating into the area. That just, again, puts a lot of investing cards in our favor for this property. So I'll let you guys kind of go through here, so you get to kind of know and love Myrtle Beach. I think most people, for me, when I grew up, Myrtle Beach was more of a vacation destination. It still is. However, it's becoming a nice metropolitan service area. We still have a very a rich tourist industry, but you're also seeing a lot of banking and technology and corporate headquarters move into the area as well. We're also seeing it to become kind of another snowboard destination for retirees. So it has a nice population mix that's moving into the area. And this, again, will show the demographics of the population moving into the area and the different universities that are there. For those of you who've never invested in one of our deals, this gives you a nice little picture on where we sit in as far as an asset class. This is a Class A property. So you can think of Class A as far as like luxury or urban infill, gated communities. We really sit in that Class A new build, affordable housing realm, but we give our properties a very luxury feel to them. So they're still very affordable. The average rent on these properties compared to the average household income for the area still hits within that 30 to 35%. So the rent is still extremely very affordable for the area for our tenants on the properties. As you again move through here, you can see the layout of the properties. Again, these are paired in duplexes, but you have like a nice green belt around them. You have a common amenity facility, with a pool and everything like that. You have nice green belts and trail systems nearby. So it really does give a good home ownership feel to it. However, you still get the benefit of having a rental community. And these go through the different floor plans. I want to get you to the financials and then open this up for questions. So right now, one of the largest risks an investor can take in investing in any deal is not knowing what kind of debt is being put on the deal, taking that interest rate risk, especially with the Fed continuing to raise interest rates. Jerome Powell, very much saying that, he's going to continue to raise them until, inflation cools. How far will he go? So it's very important in any deal that you go into that the interest rate is fixed. This is not the time to be taking on that type of risk. We're able to fix this interest rate because, one, there's no value add construction component to the property. The value add is in the lease up and the concession burn off. So we're able to put a nice fixed interest rate loan on the property, low loan to value at 62.5%. Our interest rate on this deal, we landed at 5.75%. So it's full term interest only payments, and the first 2 years are locked in, and then we have RE extensions in place to continue that lock if we need it for the next 3 years. One of the kind of a little bit different than what we would do on banks. If we're able to reposition this community in year 3, 4, or 5, we're going to sell, and again, boost that value, harvest that equity gain for our, for the limited partners, and then 1031 exchange into another property. That is our business plan. So that's why we didn't go ahead and pay to lock this in for 5 years up front, but we already have those funds set aside to do that if necessary. Otherwise, we've got it locked in for 2, and we'll continue to reevaluate where we are in our business plan and lock for additional years and pay that fee if necessary. But that's all pre-negotiated in the loan. It's a fixed rate. If we do sell in under 2 years, we have 18 months minimum interest that we have to pay. So if we sell before 18 months, we do have to pay the minimum interest that we would have paid. So it's kind of like, some people are familiar with what yield maintenance is, but that would be the only penalty on this particular type of loan. Okay, and as you can see here, what I really love about low DSCR, so the income that's already coming in on the property, not projected income that's already coming in, already puts us at that 1.5 ratio. And then here we've got our pro forma, and just a couple of things to really point out here on the pro forma is going to be, sorry guys, it's really small, I'm putting on my glasses so I can read this along with you. We've got we're gonna definitely be, the marketing line item is gonna tick down because we do, when people rent out single family houses, duplexes, they tend to stay longer. So we're able to kind of burn that off in year 1 because we don't have to, we're already at 95% occupancy. We're going to continue to increase the rents. So we don't have to put in those high marketing costs that the developer did. Another thing here, repairs and maintenance. Okay, in T12, that again, we're able to burn that off a little bit because of they had to take care of any repairs that were on the property. We have a 2-year builder's warranty on this property as well, so they will continue to take care of any of those like large expense items. Now we will have a payroll cost, and that payroll cost again will be split with the banks. So it's not as large as what it would normally be on a 44 unit property because we're able to split that payroll cost with the neighboring property, the banks of Bridgewater. All right, now if we look here at the rental comps, the banks of Bridgewater is one of the rental comps. It is right next door. There is similar floor plans over there. Granted, they're not, detached or single family homes or detached duplexes. But you can see here, stepping stones, again, very much aligned, with the market. We are a little bit more of a leader in the market because when you have like a duplex, you can charge more than you can in a multifamily building. All right. And then here's the sales comps as well. Again, we're not the top dog in the market. I like to see that, there's definitely still room for growth. And then we've got our break-even occupancy here. So our break-even occupancy, we're going to be between 60 and 65%. So still very, very low break-even occupancy when it comes to being able to cover all the expenses on the property. So we'd have to be able to, still go down to historic occupancy lows before having to tap into any reserves. All right, guys, that is kind of the general walkthrough. I'm happy to take questions now, dive down any rabbit holes that you guys want here. Yeah, let's do it. What questions do you guys have?
Whitney, while we're waiting on chat question to come in, I'll throw one out at you. Is
Yep.
this property closing in this year, or is it closing next year?
Yeah, that is a fantastic question. We closed both the Banks of Bridgewater and Stepping Stone at Bridgewater the first week of December. We had to do that because we had some investors that were 1031 into those deals, and so we had to close them then. Both the properties are still open for investment. They are closed and they're performing. We have taken over management. So investors would be invested, their capital would be invested from day one and accruing a return.
Got it. Perfect. And in terms,
and they get 2020. And to answer the follow-up question, they get 2022 tax benefits. So we're going to do a cost segregation analysis, take that 100% bonus depreciation on both properties this year.
it's like you've done these before.
A few of them.
Well, regarding that depreciation, is there anything different with this type of property, a build to rent, in the amount of accelerated depreciation one might see year one compared to a traditional multifamily?
You're going to have more land. So yeah. And I will possibly, you might have possibly more land. We're still anticipating on this particular property to have a 50% year one bonus depreciation. So, or like 50 year one loss, 50% loss on year one. So if you invested $100,000, 50,000 should come back to you on year one, as far as a paper loss. Are all the units built? Yep, 100% built. All the units are built, but they are not 95% occupancy as of right now. And our game plan is never to take a property to 100% occupancy, because you always want to have like one or two properties that you're completing repairs on, and then you can push the rents on. Now with a build to rent community, unlike a multifamily building where your tenants tend to stay longer, you might only leave like one, maybe two units open at most. You're not going to leave, say, like 10 or 15. Are these considered long-term lease? Yes. Short-term lease, I would have to actually get an answer to that question. But really, whenever you go into these type of communities, you get to control the makeup of the community, and we really don't want to mess with that by bringing in short-term renters. So I think it is an option for us. I can double check on that and get back to everybody. But again, we want to make sure that the community is what provides value there. So what is current occupancy? 95%.
Now, did I see on the map that there's no amenity center on property? Do they share the amenity center or have access to the sister property amenity center?
Yeah, they butt up right against each other, so they share the amenity center with the Banks of Bridgewater. So, and that didn't show all of the units. So here you go.
Gotcha.
So there's like a little common area right now, and the Banks of Bridgewater is like over in here, so they can share that. And again, you have the retention ponds. These are all the things that are going to guard against flooding. And again, this property is not on the coast, so you don't have that threat of coastal flooding.
No, on the build to rent asset class, I think is still relatively newer for most of our group. Is there anything related to maintenance that's any different with build to rent? Being that you have 30 roofs instead of one or two, you're maintaining a house as opposed to individual apartments that need to be considered.
Yeah, you do have the CapEx can be a little bit higher on these properties, as the properties age, right? This was all completed in early 2021. Everything is very new. We have a 2-year builder's warranty on that. So all of those foundations, roofs, HVACs, all of that are covered under that warranty. So we, for at least 2 years, so we aren't going to see those CapEx expenses. But as say, like as this asset class ages, and you're, let's fast forward 5, 7 years, 10 years, and you're investing in a build to rent community. Think of it as you're picking up 22 duplexes. As an investor, what are you going to be concerned about? The age of the roofs, age of the HVACs, the age of the water heaters. Are there any foundational issues? You're going to be concerned about all those things. Whereas in the multifamily building, you're probably still going to have individual heating and air units on new builds. You're going to have individual water heaters, but what you aren't going to have are those individual foundations, garage door openers to deal with, individual roofs. So the CapEx on larger buildings can be lower. However, you're kind of trading it off with the type of rent, potentially with the type of renter that you would be renting to. Multifamily, we tend to see a higher turnover because you're sharing 3 to 4 walls with somebody. I mean, probably only 3 walls with somebody, 2 neighbors and somebody behind you, right? Whereas on this, you're sharing 1 wall. And so these type of renters tend to stay longer. We tend to see less turnover. So there's trade-offs between the two different types of asset classes.
Got it. Makes sense. And what about, I know it's not the business plan. You plan to be out of it in 5 years, or hope to be out of it in 5 years, but longer term, is there anything with the build to rent asset class that would prevent you from being able to sell these off individually in a situation where you needed to, like covenants that requires a community always be rent only?
Yeah, that would be exactly that. If there's some sort of like covenant, or if there, did you have an arrangement with the city that this remains strictly as a rental as opposed to, being able to sell off individually? Those are things that we guard against in our contracts. But there are, as this, as we kind of move through the next, 5, 7 years, you're going to see more of these build to rent communities that are probably going to, I would expect in some areas. I live in, Boulder, Colorado, Denver metro area. I can entirely anticipate in Denver that, what they've done with short-term rentals and the way housing prices are, that they might actually put a price restriction on them, to be able to sell off individually. So I think those are all great questions to be asking. That's why we love investing in very pro-business areas that, where we don't have that much control placed on us, I should say.
Right, makes sense, especially a tourist area like Myrtle Beach, where these could even be STRs possibly as another option or exit plan. A lot of golfers.
Right.
All right, very good. Is there any other questions out there from the group? If not, we can wrap this up. I can get the recording out to everyone. And Whitney, do you want to provide your contact information if anyone has any follow-up questions?
Yeah, so I don't know if anybody kind of joined late, so I'll recopy the offering memorandum, and I'm sure, and I saw that there was a couple other questions come in, so I'm not going to leave you hanging. So I'll dump the offering memorandum and the soft reserve in the link or in the chat. When you place your soft reserve, make sure that where it says, how did you hear about this deal? You put left field investors or LFI, something like that. That way our investor services teams knows how to place you in. If you forget that, we don't know. Okay. As you can imagine, I don't have a list of all left field investors. So, and I don't want it. But anyways, so make sure that you put that in. If anybody wants to talk individually about this deal, you can just reach out to my calendar is getting very crunched right up against the holidays, but I can definitely squeeze a few more calls in tomorrow or today or tomorrow. Okay. So be sure to reach out to me at whitney@passiveinvesting.com. I might have added too many eyes again. This is what I do. Yeah, it's only one eye. This is what happens when I don't have my glasses on. So let me try that again. yeah, reach out to me there and we can schedule time, for quick questions, or if you just want to email them, that's totally fine. Let's see, the question came in: how will left field investors know if we hit the $250,000? We will let Jim know. I anticipate that left field has hit every single investment amount that we have put in front of the group. So I don't, especially on a deal like this that is, one, unique, two, already performing from day one. It's not like you invest and you have to wait for your money to start accruing a return for like another 45, 60 days. It's accruing from day one. You're taking advantage of that 100% bonus depreciation. I do see we have plenty of investors that are looking for deals like this. So I see that happening, but we will circle back with Jim and let him know as soon as we hit that. What's the minimum investment commitment for an individual? I typically, on this particular deal, I think it says $75,000. I can work with investors, typically for LFI, we'll do a minimum of $50,000, but reach out to me. And, and I understand a lot of people have invested a good portion of money already this year. So you just reach out to me and we can have a conversation. Oh, the soft reserve link doesn't seem to be working. Okay, guys, let me try this again, because I actually just tested it this morning because we had this issue last time. Let me try this again. Maybe I felt like we had this on the banks at Bridgewater. Okay. All right, I just clicked on it. This link's working. So if you have any issues, just email me. We can definitely, we can do the reserve process the old way, just by email. So.
And you may have mentioned it. Is there a funding deadline for this, or a reservation deadline?
Since we are closed, we are looking to get. So what happened was we actually we actually had one investor that couldn't fund their initial investment, and they were a very large investor. And so when I think we have about 1.2 million left on this property, we don't have much, maybe not even that now. Once that's filled, it's gone. So this is kind of as quickly as possible. So.
Gotcha. But need to be before the end of the year, I assume?
If you want to get 2022 tax benefits, it has to be before the end of the year. Yeah, we would need to be funded. I like to have funding done by the 23rd, the week before Christmas, because the following week, now, if something goes wrong or something needs to be signed, now you're scrambling and trying to get a hold of people. Mm-hmm. Technically, if you're funded by the 30th, it works. But, again, since your dollars are invested as soon as your money hits, there's no reason to delay until the very last second. I know I do that too. Mm-hmm. I'll be like, what's the funding deadline? Because I don't want to give you my money any earlier than I have to, because I'm earning a return over here. You don't have that, right? You're earning that 5.1 annualized return year one as soon as your money hits. So why delay?
Great, good to know. All right, Whitney, well, I don't see any other questions, so great job. Thank you for going through this deal. Thank you for your relationship with LFI. We greatly appreciate it. And we look forward to more in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys take care. Have a happy holiday. Reach out to me if you have any questions, and we'll get those answered.
Thanks. Bye-bye.